Hello everyone, this is GameBiz Wolf. Welcome to my channel, where we are talking about the art and business of making games. Today we are talking about RimWorld. RimWorld is a colony simulation game built by a single person and released in 2013, so it's now 8 years old. Let's look at the one-person team first. The creator of RimWorld is called Tynan Sylvester. He is a Canadian industry veteran and has worked as a level designer and systems designer, including work on BioShock Infinite, where he constructed AI behavior trees. Tynan has been in the game business for about 5 years before he started his own company, Ludeon Studios. In Latin, Ludos means games. He also wrote a book about game design that's for sale on Amazon and elsewhere. I put the links in the description. Tynan Sylvester kept the team size pretty small. Translations are done by the community itself, who can participate right from the game menu. This led to a small indie game being able to offer 23 languages. A great way to translate your game on a budget. The music was done by an artist called Alistair Lindsay, who also worked on Prison Architect. I usually turn off the music, but in RimWorld it really supports the feel of the game and it's overall great. The game can be heavily modded, which allows each player to adapt to his or her playstyle. More content, more features, quality of life features, and stupidly funny new things are all possible. I personally have about 40 activated mods at the moment, and I recommend you test out the Zombie Fight mod because everything is better with zombies. Now, what is RimWorld? RimWorld was inspired by the space western setting of Firefly, the deep simulation of Dwarf Fortress, and the epic scale of Dune and Warhammer 40k. When you start the game, you choose one of 3 storyteller personalities. They are easy or hard on you and determine when events will be triggered. Events can be positive or negative, but always leads to interesting situations, and in this way stories are developed. This is a little bit like in Left 4 Dead, where the director, as the storyteller algorithm was called, threw increasingly difficult monsters your way without overpowering you. It's the same principle here. The colonists you start with are colonists by accident. They are not prepared for this. They get random stats. You can re-roll them at the start, but if you don't have anyone with you who knows how to cook, prepare for a lot of diarrhea. These colonists have character traits, personalities, histories, and relationships. You will lose some and have others join your colony. There are body parts which can be shot off and replaced by artificial organs. They get sick, develop immunities, become addicted to drugs, and sometimes become psychotic. This all feels quite realistic, regardless of the 2D art style. The planet you play on is also randomly generated, which means that there is a huge replayability in this game. I personally have spent about 1,000 hours on it, and that's only counting the hours since it was connected with Steam. There are biomes on this planet. There are tundra, boreal forest, temperate forest, swamps, glaciers, tropical rainforests, arid biomes, deserts, and deep desert biomes. Each biome has their own flora and fauna, some of which is tameable. Some animals are good to carry your stuff. Some give milk, eggs, wool, or bacon. Avoid the chickens though. They will pick your map clean of any plants if you have a large enough flock. At the planet screen, you pick a spot you like, and this is where your planets will crash land. There are seasons that are modeled. In wintertime, depending on your biome, there is snow of various heights, and this hinders movements, and nothing grows. Spring is sowing time, and autumn is harvesting time. You can grow food, drugs, hops, cocoa trees, and even strange space mushrooms that you use to make fabrics from. This also allows you to have a walk-in freezer to preserve your food. Combat. Combat is an integral part of RimWorld. You get attacked by bandits, natives, other colonists, mech hives, the fauna, and sometimes by your own people if they are high on drugs. You have cover, range, hit chances, armor, and many different weapons from stone clubs to laser guns. There are a ton of different stats. There's a health system that allows for body parts to be destroyed and replaced. Your colonists can be knocked unconscious, and you can drag them out of the line of fire to carry them to safety before they bleed out. At the same way, you can win the firefight and then throw the unconscious enemies into your brig and treat them and maybe convince them to stay with your colony if they have good stats. The character skills determine how good they are at a job. This improves by usage and slowly decays when not in use. You can specify the work priorities for each colonist, so your doctors are always ready to drop their hammer at the anvil and rush to the hospital when in need. Psychology plays a big part. You have to keep your colonists happy. Don't feed them food paste all year long. They want real food. Give them enough space to live in. Give them entertainment. Don't work them to death. Don't force them to walk past the pile of dead raiders every morning. This tends to make people uncomfortable. Keep the environment clean and beautiful, and you will still occasionally have someone with a mental breakdown because his or her partner cheated on them and is now moving to another colonist's room. This game is a storytelling game, and there's a lot of drama to experience. Who needs Love Boat when you have RimWorld? So much for the features. Now the art style. As you can see, this is rudimentary, but allows your fantasy to fill in the gaps. In some way, it is a better art style than many realistic looking games have, because it ages well, and it can be created by a single person dev team. Excellent choice. Let's now look at the technology. RimWorld uses the Unity framework, but some custom time and object handling systems had to be created, because Unity was not the perfect engine for this kind of game. RimWorld is a tile-based 2D game with thousands of objects, while Unity is better suited for smooth space 3D games with only hundreds of objects. The programming language was C#. Other tools were Photoshop, Audition, Illustrator, Flash 8, and Visual Studio. Now let's talk about the release date and platforms. RimWorld entered early access in 2013. It received regular content updates for free and still does. It was developed for Windows, Mac, and Linux and is DRM free. In 2016, the game was released as an early access title on Steam. The first DLC has been released in February 2020. RimWorld was released DRM free, which has probably something to do with the small team size. This inevitably led to piracy and lost revenue. When the game was released to Steam, this became an issue. Existing customers received game codes to activate the game in their Steam libraries. Those codes were distributed on piracy platforms, and customers complained that their game couldn't be activated because someone else had already activated their copy. You don't want to be in this situation. It caused a lot of drama and took time away from the dev team. If you are a small team, I recommend you release on Steam. Yes, Steam does take 30% of your revenue, but they also make it easy to be discovered. You get access to Steam's huge user base. You don't have to worry about payment chargeback support. You don't have to worry about game codes being pirated and can focus on developing your product. Or release on the Epic Game Store. They only charge 12%, but have a smaller audience. Let's look at the game's popularity. In the Steam stats today, on a Tuesday lunchtime, RimWorld has over 11,000 concurrent players and a peak of over 18,600 players today. That places RimWorld in the top 100 games by concurrent users, and that is more than Skyrim, Fallout 4, Far Cry 5, Cyberpunk 2077 or Counter-Strike have. This is a hugely popular game. If you look in the Steam database, linked in the description, we can see the lifetime concurrent players. The red line is Twitch viewers and the blue line is active players. You can see two things. First, Twitch has a strong influence on how many people play RimWorld. Second, RimWorld is now over 5 years old, at least on Steam, and continues to both grow its user base as well as retain its existing players. That's a ridiculous success for a tiny one-person team. Tyne and Sylvester really hit the bullseye with RimWorld. Let's stay on this page and look at the sales and revenue now. Steam Spy estimates between 2 and 5 million users, so let's go with an estimation of 3 million users. Let's assume that additional 15% of sales have happened through GOG. Please post in the comments if you have data about how many GOG sales happen in relation to Steam sales, because I can only guess here. I don't know if one Steam sale translates to half a GOG sale or something like that. Please educate me. I'm guessing at the moment 15% additional sales. Let's also assume that 25% of all the existing customers bought the DLC. It's probably higher, but 25% is a very conservative number. RimWorld costs €29.99. Let's assume that 75% of customers bought RimWorld at a sale when it cost only $26.99, since this used to be the starting price of the game. $30 for an indie title is above the magic $20 limit that many people are often afraid of. Don't be. Be bold in your pricing. You can always reduce the price, but never increase it. I know we are currently ignoring the sales that happened before the Steam release, and the game was sold for far less back then, but we don't have data for this, so let's ignore it for a moment. Next, we assume a chargeback rate of 5%, standard. Next, we remove 20% for taxes. In the US, this is only 7%, but I don't know what additional taxes exist in this market. There seems to be an ecosystem of complex county, state, and national taxes. Here in Europe, most countries have about 20% sales tax, so let's stick with this as a conservative calculation. Lastly, Steam takes a 30% share for usage of their platform. This brings us to a net revenue of €50.9 million, plus €7.7 million for the DLC, which is €58.6 million net revenue in total. That's $71.7 million at the exchange rate of today, June 1st, 2021. A huge success. Now let's estimate the production costs. Tyne and Sylvester kept the burn rate low. He only had to pay himself, plus the freelancers, for music and maybe customer support. Let's calculate as if he had to pay 3 developers, each with a yearly salary of €50,000 plus 20% non-wage labor costs. Let's assume he also spent €2,000 per employee for hardware costs and also rented office space for €2,000 per month. He probably didn't, but let's calculate it this way. For the development duration, let's assume 12 months. plus the time since the team works on the game post-launch in 2013, which brings us to 108 months now. This includes the cost for creating the DLC, which was done during this time. The marketing budget is extremely difficult to estimate, but let's think about how Tynan kept the burn rate low and apply the same logic. Let's assume he spent an average of 5,000 euros for the duration of those 108 months. In total, the costs for RimWorld can be estimated at 2.4 million euros, which is 2.9 million US dollar. Net revenue minus costs is a profit of 56.2 million euros, which is 68.8 million US dollar. Now, these are only estimations, but if we assume that RimWorld had only, let's say, a sixth or 500,000 sales instead of those 3 million sales that we are estimating, which is unrealistic, but still, then it would still make a profit of about 7 million euros. So huge success. RimWorld has hit the perfect sweet spot of low burn rate, high sales price for an indie title, and viral word-of-mouth marketing due to product attractiveness. Tynan Sylvester picked a niche, colony simulation storytelling game, probably invented this niche with this game. That was a niche that was tiny, with a hardcore target audience, and he played to his own strengths. Keep in mind, there are hundreds of indie developers out there who did many of the same things and we never hear about because they didn't succeed. Nevertheless, look at how seemingly easy it gets when you make a series of right choices. Now we're done with our analysis. Let's look at how you could potentially monetize RimWorld from here on. RimWorld uses the traditional monetization method of a pay first, play later kind of way. There is one DLC available in addition to the main game. That means no matter how much customers love the product, they cannot possibly pay more than those 45 bucks. The developer can now churn out additional DLC. This is a balancing act between keeping the customer base happy with free updates for the base game and churning out content and features for the new DLC. It also introduces complexity since the more DLC you add, you have to think about various combinations and how they interact with each other and affect and override and counterbalance each other. So the more DLC you add, the more complex it gets. Also, since RimWorld can be heavily modded, the ability to come up with exciting new content for DLC is reduced, because many of these things are already out there in the form of mods. Keep in mind, this modability helped make RimWorld as attractive as it is. See it as a marketing tool. The developer could look at the free-to-play monetization method, but RimWorld isn't really suited for this. It's a single-player game which removes social bragging features. It's a non-persistent experience that focuses on replayability and that removes most of the items I can think of in the use of typical free-to-play games. It's a DRM-free game that doesn't have to be connected to a server, and that also isn't really a suitable environment for this kind of monetization. I have a crazy idea, but hear me out. The developer could turn it into an MMO. This has several advantages: a constant revenue stream, persistent player progress, which allows for more long-term progress and unlocks a lot of monetization features, even higher retention than RimWorld already has, and the introduction of multiplayer features. RimWorld, as it is today, isn't suited for this. We would have to see the player as a colony manager who survives even if his colony is a total party vibe. The game world could become an overarching meta-game layer, connecting the colonies of many players. Connection means interaction, and there you have the basis for multiplayer. Of course, you need to find ways to reduce griefing, or stronger players raiding weaker ones. This would increase player churn massively and would probably not fly well with this kind of audience. You also would have to introduce multiphasing, so that the game world doesn't become full of empty colonies with no space left to place your settlement in. Trade could become a strong backbone of the economy, and you suddenly do have a planet-spanning economy driven by players. This means you need to introduce resource sinks, maybe in the form of a war against mech hives, which in turn could generate social prestige and land claim rights. Faction gameplay could become a thing, which would fit very well with the setting of the DLC and the royal houses competing for power and awarding land and titles. Trading illegal substances like Yayo introduces the possibility of a smuggler gameplay, which fits very well with RimWorld's Western setting. This would be no longer RimWorld. This would be a completely different game. Similar, but different to RimWorld. A much larger project, requiring a larger team and new technology. The architecture of an MMO is a complex beast. This would turn Ludeon from a small indie studio to a bigger one, where Tynan would no longer code himself, but spend his time doing performance reviews and sitting in meetings with the CFO. He has worked hard to unlock this possibility, but only time will tell if this is what he wants. That's the end of this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe. If you want to build your own game, look at the choices and mistakes of the games I review. Make other mistakes, new ones, and as always, shoot for the stars. Bye bye. P.S. This is a new YouTube channel. I cannot draw, so I don't have a YouTube icon yet. If you are an artist and would like to contribute, please ping me at gamebizwolf@gmail.com. Thank you.